SeaWorld consists of 3 marine parks in San Diego, California, Orlando, Florida, and Antonio, Texas. The first park was opened during 1964 in San Diego, and since then, SeaWorld has become a leading theme park and entertainment company, caring for the largest population of orcas worldwide. When the documentary film Blackfish was released in January 2013, first premiering at the Sundance Festival, many legal, ethical, and prudential issues arose. Captured off the Iceland coast in 1983, Tilikum, the largest orca in captivity, was the main focus in the film Blackfish. In his career, he has killed 3 people: Kelty Byron, a sealand trainer, Daniel Dukes, a trespassing man, and most recently, Don Bradshaw, a senior SeaWorld trainer. In response to the overwhelming criticism towards their company after the documentary film Blackfish surfaced many prudential, legal, and ethical issues, SeaWorld plans to build new, larger whale environments, invest in ocean health research, and pledge $10 million to projects investigating threats to orcas in the wild.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I'm going to talk about the film Blackfish today. At first, I would like to separate the ethical problems into 2 general parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the ethical problems between the SeaWorld company and the orcas. I don't think the human beings have the right to use orcas or any animals for entertainment or making money. We are born equal on this planet, and we should treat all the animals as our friends. Then I'm going to talk about some details in this film. The SeaWorld company keeps the huge orcas like Tilikum in a small pool, and the trainers and the company know that some other orcas are hurting him. But they don't come out with a very nice solution, so they can't really help Tilikum. So I think that is a major problem, that why Tilikum would hurt each other. As we know, orcas is an animal that have a very high intelligence. So when the company selling the orcas, they have to separate the orcas family. So when the mother orcas lost her girl, that is very cruel for them, because they know their baby is leaving them and they can't do anything about it. Then I would like to talk about the ethical issues between the SeaWorld company and the people. The first point is, after Tilikum attacked Dawn and killed her, the SeaWorld company first said Dawn was slipped into the pool. And then they said Tilikum grabbed Dawn's ponytail. And anyway, the SeaWorld company was trying to tell the people that why Dawn is dead is her own fault, have nothing to do with Tilikum or the SeaWorld company. And I can't imagine what kind of company would say this after their own employees was killed. So from this point, SeaWorld company have a very low ethical standards. And the second, the SeaWorld company was lying to their customers all the time. They said the orcas have a very comfortable environment to live and be trained, but the fact is they don't have a very nice environment to live. And they keep telling their customers the wild orcas cannot live as long as their trained orcas. And as we know, that is not fact too.
The film Blackfish has identified the trainer's safety as a legal issue in regards to an Occupational Safety and Health Act violation. The General Duty Clause in the Occupational Safety and Health Act says that each employer shall furnish to each of his employees employment and a place of employment which are free of recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to his employees. SeaWorld was under investigation after the death of trainer Don Bradshaw. Upon the investigation of this death, OSHA sued SeaWorld for violating the safety requirements of their employees by putting the trainers in danger when they were swimming with the orca named Tilikum. In order for a violation to occur, there are 4 elements that must be met. 1. An activity or condition in the employer's workplace presented a hazard to an employee. 2. Either the employer or the industry recognized the condition or activity as a hazard. 3. The hazard was likely to or actually caused death or serious physical harm. And 4. A feasible means to eliminate or materially reduce the hazard that exists. In SeaWorld's case, all 4 elements were violated. The lawsuit brought forward by OSHA made a judgment that banned direct contact between trainers and orcas. This ban implemented having a physical barrier or a sufficient distance between trainers and orcas. Having this standard around, the trainers weren't allowed in the water at all. SeaWorld tried to appeal this ruling. They contested elements 2 and 4, saying that A. Exposing its employees to a recognized hazard is unsupported by evidence. B. Some risk is inherent to the business and therefore cannot constitute a recognized hazard. C. There was an unreliable expert testimony about whale predictability after training and precautions. And D. Regarding feasible means to eliminate the hazard, the judge didn't take into account that SeaWorld had implemented measures to eliminate or reduce harm. SeaWorld felt that banning the close contact of orcas and trainers was forcing the company to change the fundamental nature of its business. They depended on the thrills that come from putting humans and orcas together. SeaWorld believes this is an unfair ruling that is causing them to change their business practices that have been an essential product of their success for nearly 50 years. The film Blackfish makes a bold statement about how SeaWorld knew certain orcas were dangerous, yet the trainers were still put in the water with them to perform. There was one orca named Tilikum who had written in his animal profile that he would sometimes lunge towards control trainer and have a negative history with trainers in the water. Upper SeaWorld management knew to exercise caution and had strict protocols with Tilikum. However, the trainers were never told why. He was involved in a number of incidents where trainers were injured or killed. This information was never shared with SeaWorld employees. The trainers saw Tilikum as a sweet, caring, and intelligent animal that wasn't capable of harm. The training that SeaWorld provided was minimal. Many trainers believed to achieve a job at SeaWorld they had to have a degree in marine biology. They were surprised when they were offered a job and soon realized later that it was based more on personality than education. One trainer named Sam Berg mentioned in the film that shortly after being employed at SeaWorld, she was jumping in the pools and doing perimeter rides with the whales. According to SeaWorld, trainers are required to have at least 18 months of experience before they are allowed any close contact with the whales, and at least 3 years before they can direct a whale's behavior. This film portrays SeaWorld as not upholding trainer experience. This is a good example of how SeaWorld's inadequate steps to keep their trainers safe. One of the biggest ethical issues within the film Blackfish is about keeping whales in captivity and using them for entertainment. In April of 2014 in California, State Assembly member Richard Bloom brought forward a bill that is now referred to as the Blackfish Bill. This bill was introduced after Bloom watched the film Blackfish. The Blackfish Bill states that it is unlawful for any wild orca to be held in captivity for entertainment or for breeding purposes. If passed, this would force SeaWorld San Diego to stop using orcas in their shows, period. Currently, the Blackfish bill is still in deliberation.
A potential issue is overlooking legal and ethical issues for personal gain. The Blackfish movie argues that SeaWorld has overlooked the well-being of their trainers and other employees for financial gain. Up until now, since the release of Blackfish, SeaWorld has released very few responses to the issues that Blackfish has brought up. SeaWorld has been up and running for about 50 years. For most of those 50 years, SeaWorld wasn't required to release how they operated. Whether or not Blackfish is right in saying their actions are strictly for financial gain is all open to interpretation. However, what we can take a closer look at is SeaWorld's public information. The introduction of Blackfish played 2 chilling 911 calls, both for the 2 deaths Tilikum was responsible for. You will notice the cool, calm, and collected voice of the SeaWorld representative on the phone. Ooh, gives me chills. For SeaWorld, 2 deaths from their main attraction is a public relations nightmare. They respond by looking after their corporation's best interest and saying Tillicum wasn't at fault. In April of 2013, SeaWorld Entertainment became a public corporation. So for the first time, the public can see how they are doing. If you take a look at the snapshot of their shares seized, you will see they started trading at around $32. They fluctuated around that price until August of 2014. They took a hit and now are trading at around $17 per share. A huge difference of $15 per share pretty much overnight. What happened? Well, they released their financial statements. A statement from SeaWorld said that their revenue for their second quarter, the summer of 2014, was $405 million. That same quarter in 2013 was $411 million. A difference of only $6 million. Perception is everything when you look at the numbers. A $6 million difference from one summer to the next isn't much. However, shareholders thought it was a big enough drop or a big enough impact to drop their share prices significantly. What does this mean for SeaWorld Entertainment? Ignorance is no longer bliss. SeaWorld now has shareholders to answer to for the way they run their corporation. SeaWorld Entertainment is losing money and are now required to address the ethical and legal issues they have been ignoring. In the beginning of the Blackfish movie, the trainers explain they became trainers because of their attraction to the majestic orcas. As stated in the legal section, becoming a SeaWorld trainer was very easy. Before all of the ethical issues were realized or came to light, becoming a SeaWorld trainer was a privilege. Blackfish also shows the capture of Tillicum. The hunter reveals he initially joined the hunt because it felt like a fun game. The detrimental part for the hunter was realizing he was capturing a baby and taking it from its mother. A heartbreaking realization. Parents can definitely relate to how unnatural that is. The hunter never hunted again, whales anyway, and the capture of Tillicum still haunts him to this day. In both cases, the trainer and the hunter were hired under a false sense of security. They did join for their own self-interest and thinking they were getting involved with trustworthy organizations only to realize they were being used. The biggest event in Blackfish was again separating babies from their mothers. The babies were considered distractions in SeaWorld, and they were sold to other parks. Chilling recordings and videos of the haunting cries from the mothers of the orcas were shown. Again, very chilly. Later on in the Blackfish movie, the trainers mentioned once not only this situation, but all ethical issues came to light, they stayed working with SeaWorld, even though they didn't agree with what was going on. And their reasoning was loyalty to Tillicum. A recurring theme was who would take care of him if they weren't there. They felt an unsurmountable amount of guilt for leaving Tillicum and for their own peace of mind. As long as they stayed, they knew he was being taken care of. Each of the trainers and the hunter participated in the Blackfish documentary to release some of this guilt and for the release of Tillicum. In February of 2012, 11 months before the release of Blackfish, the trainers featured in the Blackfish film started a website called Voice for the Orcas. Here they catalog articles and documents of the fight to stop SeaWorld from operating. On their opening page it states they experienced a change of heart regarding the captivity of whales and dolphins and amusement parks.